Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Bevelyn. That was such a beautiful talk. I'm still very full of parables and thoughts. I bet you are too. So I'm just going to balance a few things. So everybody's got their yarn. Just hold on to it. I always like to make stuff, so, just it's comforting too. Kind of think of it like your cat, when your cat is being very nice and not needing to be fed. So, and for those of you online, I don't know, just love the textiles in your life. Make yourself comfortable. Grab a pillow, something like that. Hi everybody. I'm nervous and excited to be here and honored as well. And my purple piece of paper that I was going to read from is right here. So I have been thinking about what I was going to say today, because this is not like a normal art talk. It just felt like something else with living futures and what you said about wanting to live a life that you did all you could for your children, your child. Don't we all want to do that? Do the best we can with what we've got, because if we thought about all the things that are so hard, maybe we could just get paralyzed. And Bevelyn, thank you especially for talking about the roots and how our world is, it's a living being. It's a living place that we live, and we just so need to care for it. And all the time of the pandemic, I think when we got to stay in one place, it's, maybe I did this before, but stop. Look at those trees. How did they get there? And how long have they been there, and what have they seen? And then my friend and I, we talked about snails, all the animals that live with us that have just as much a right to be here as we do. This is sort of where my art led me to. I've been making stuff all my life, and maybe some people have been singing or playing the piano or something, but I pick stuff up and make stuff. And I have been lucky enough to make a life out of that, and to help other people make a life out of what they want to do and finding stuff and making stuff. So I want to tell you about two people. First off, when I was 23 years old, which was actually 50 years ago, hello, I'm 73, and I'm still busy, I was working on a kibbutz in Kibbutz Evron in Israel, and I talked my way into going out and working in the citrus orchard. And the guy was Israel, and he was so pissed. He said, I tell you this, I want a man, and they send me a woman to do a man's job. I think I got in there with my name, but I worked so hard. And he said, okay, I see that you work, you shall work for me. And I worked for 2 or 3 months with 2 Arab men, and we pruned and watched the birds in the trees, but basically it was grapefruit and tapazim. But one day, Israel, he stopped me and he said, Bryant, I tell you this, I speak my English from the RAF. He was in the RAF in First World War. I have flown, but I am here, and to tell you this, that to care for a growing thing is the most important thing. And for me, I had found such joy in being with those trees and in that life that it never occurred to me that I could make a life out of caring for a growing thing. So I've carried that advice with me forever. And then this is an electron microscope. When I was 4, my father came on one night and showed me what his tweed coat looked like under magnification. He was a textile engineer, and it was like he showed me another world. I want to read you this. His gray coat contained a magic cosmos under magnification, as beautiful as anything I'd ever seen, maybe even to this day. Layer upon layer of small particles of thread containing what seemed to be all the colors of the universe, twisted together to make a larger whole. All of that in my dad's gray jacket. I did not know then that what he showed me that evening would become the foundation of how I looked at the world as I learned to see and understand it. Layer upon layer of smaller systems woven together to make a whole, everything, everywhere, all the time. Plants, animals, the very layers of the earth itself are layered complex systems. So I had 2 things that I know I've woven into my whole life, and I've also lost my clicker. That nice man gave me a clicker. Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to just hold on to your ball of yarn, and I'm just going to show you a bunch of stuff. So at some point in my life, I figured out that I could be a basket maker, and so I was hunting and gathering and making and listening to music, and I was looking at what all the indigenous people of the land were making their baskets out of, and I kept seeing all this other stuff that was not supposed to be there. But anyway, I learned that I could just break all the rules and put them on my head and gather other materials, and at that point it was natural materials like an okra pod. Those are chopsticks. I began very early on just saying, I've got to use this too. And that made me a kind of a sinner in the basketry community because I started picking up what they called unnatural materials. So I was in this community teaching all these people to make baskets, and I, like, okay, maybe I wasn't in that community anymore, but I was in a bigger community making other stuff. So it's great when you follow what you need to do, right? So credit card birds. A gentleman, because thank gosh I founded the Scrap Exchange with the help of many other people, because of what I do, picking up stuff and making stuff, people always wanted to bring stuff and put it on my front. Hello, Scrap Exchange. But anyway, this very nice man came up to me and said, Brian, I want to give you something. And for some reason, I just stood there and said, okay. A lot of times I try to send him some other place. But he gave free credit counseling at the Women's Center for women that were in debt. And so the first thing you have to do in credit card counseling is chop up your credit cards. So he gave me this huge jar of chopped up credit cards. So I made him a mosaic, and I was also asked that year to do an ornament for the Christmas tree in the White House. And the Arts Council said, Bryant, we know about the people that make birds. We want you to do something different. So I started making birds out of these credit cards because of that nice man. And also, all along, Bevelyn said this, she's got, all this work and stuff she does, but also her private practice. And so my work came from private practice, but then it goes out and relates to community. And I think I got to tell a bigger story. And this was the first time I ever did public art. And this was when Sunshares was a nonprofit, a recycling agency. And so I talked to them and the Arts Council and of Durham I said it looked like Stonehenge, but it was one day's worth of plastic that was baled. It did not look like Stonehenge. and I've got like all this detritus on the inside, and I documented detritus for a year. But anyway, that's the crew at that time. And every time I'd go around the corner, I'd say, oh, trash, oh no, it's my art project. But it's the first time I ever got yelled at. You can be yelled at for trying to do something nice and environmental, because people do not want to see what is thrown away. They want it to disappear. And we have a big responsibility because it doesn't disappear, as you know. I keep doing that. So I began collecting a lot of stuff of my life, and that's my mail for 1 year and all the plastic silverware. And the very beginning of bottle caps, a sociologist that I am. And so, okay, also old shoes. So this is a project I began. I made these labyrinths, and I got the kids to say, I want you to say with these shoes what you think people need to see and know. And so they did. So this was a pretty moving experience. I mean, I did a bunch of those different places with different people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of old shoes. It's pretty easy to get those. So I want to show you a little bit how these animals are made. This is way down the line, but they're full of the stuff we throw away in those single-use plastic bags. And so that's the beginning of this guy that became this guy. And he's covered, he's got sticks and all these natural things more or less on the outside. He's got sticks and all these natural things more or less on the outside, but all on the inside is the guts of our society, really. Crows are great. You know, I'm so glad when I walk out of my house and I hear that caw, great, like in a tree up above. I said, okay, there you are out there doing your thing. I feel so grateful for them. And it's like the other day I saw a crow flying from McDonald's to Wendy's, you know, with like a bag from one, you know, like a tissue from one of them. They are survivors. We need survivors, and I'm so happy for all the animals that can survive, because it's tough out there. And when I got to go to Australia, they call chickens chooks. How do you get a chicken to come to you? Chook, 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 chook. Anyway, so these chickens were crazy because I could use all my balls of scrap to make them. And so, out of place. But so how I figured out about the plastic bags is I was traveling with my friends and we went to San Miguel, and we went to San Miguel de Allende, which there are many, many gringos there that moved from all over to live there. And so there were all these signs up, bring your plastic bags to the Episcopal Church. And so we went. And so these are retired nurses from Canada, and they're rolling the plastic bags up like balls, like you would your socks, and then stuffing these small mattresses for children. And they really worked. And that's how I thought, oh, I can use that in these animals. But they really, really worked. And they said they made them small because everybody in the family slept on the ground, and they wanted the kids to have their own bed. But anyway, so kids making animals or sculptures just after me. I do that a lot as well. It's really fun. Here's baskets. And the fun thing about me and baskets is that once I sort of started breaking the rules, you just teach a few techniques, and people can do whatever they want with them. Oh, and I want to talk a little bit about creativity and what we all have inside. This is my great-nephew, Alexander, and I know that you know, this is a squirrel. See the tail? You see this and this, and so he just said, hey, Mom, I just made you a squirrel. And of course, he's brilliant, right? But you know, I bet you did something like that as a kid. I bet you did, and it's the thing that I don't want us to ever forget is this true creativity that we have, and I want kids to always have theirs nurtured. So this was a long-time project. As a sociologist, I realized all those bottle caps were marks of food eaten, that 50 years ago we did not have that because everything was biodegradable. It wasn't packaged. Not 50, maybe 70. At one point I knew when they started canning things. And all these things happened during World Wars too. Things got canned and things got instant. But anyway, so these are all marks of food eaten. And so all my friends just collected bottle caps. It wasn't really hard to get these. The hard part was to keep them sorted. So this is the largest one I ever did, and they're all done in community. This was, yeah, and this was the first one. People were always worried, oh, people will ruin them. They never did, because it's like, and the other principle of these is you can, if you're lucky, you can go to the ocean and see that vast, beautiful space. It is not like looking at a picture. So you can tell people about what you consume or what gets thrown away. But my hope is, with these vast things, that people will start to internalize, oh, those are everyday objects that I throw away, that I have. They're all, you can count them. So, and then, of course, it takes a village to make them. And everybody helps me put this here in colors and stuff. And Anne Marie, this is my friend that I thought was going to be here at Wake Tech. I just wanted to just see, again, all the people helping do them. This one, and you can see how they've got such depth, too. But what I wanted to tell you about that other one was that was sort of the last one I did and one of the largest one, and it was the first time that people, it's in the middle of a library. It's the first time that people did not stop and always be in awe. They would walk into it a lot. Can you tell me? And this is 10, 12 years ago, maybe longer than that now. What was happening? What was really, really happening in colleges? You want to guess? Absolutely. Everybody was going like, yeah, everybody was going like this. There was a time when some people were and some people weren't, but it was everybody. And so these two guys were like, they'd gotten drunk too many times and were on probation, so they'd come back and fix it every time. They were my buddies. You need help. Anyway. And this was, done in a mall. At one point, the thing about doing art like this is sometimes people just don't take it seriously. So we got this grant to use all these bottle caps, and all these kids all over Winston were going to come to help, and none of the museums could have bottle caps in their museum. So the lead teacher said, I'm going to fix this. Public art, we're going public. So this was in the mall. And it was, everybody still talks about it. Give the caps to kids. This is the way they decided they were going to make their mandala. And so another huge issue, of course, is plastic, single-use plastic. And so this is the first waterfall I ever made out of plastic bottles. It was made in Midland, Texas, where it's the middle of the Permian Basin where they can't drink the water. It's where pump jacks are everybody, and you don't own the land, but underneath you, nevertheless, you don't own it. So these students helped me make it, and that child there, she read on the bottle, it says purified. And so all those bottles were purified, and so we just named this Purified a river in the desert. You can sort of see it there. And so any sort of project like that, what the joy of it is all the people coming together. This was in Pennsylvania, and they were so excited to have me there, and all the elementary schools came, and everybody was so excited to have something to do with their plastic bottles for a bit. Weaving. Hold on to that ball of yarn. Weaving like a bird. It's a repetitive process that we used to have so many repetitive processes in our lives that we don't have anymore. Sowing seeds. I'm kind of nervous, so I can't even think of any more, but just when washing the dishes, but more than that, hoeing. And so when I go into a school and do a weaving project, kids do not want to stop because nobody has given them permission to do anything that's over and under and around. And so it's a really lovely process. And so I've made, and so kid designed, I bent the wire, and they all wove it. I love this bird one. And I missed the slide where all the kids are holding up and hiding because I'm really not supposed to take a picture of the kids themselves. But anyway, so there's the excited assistant principal when we got it finished. Okay, and this is the last one. This is at Nag's Head. And so you can sort of see the process not quite finished. We're trying it out. So, and this was, making it three-dimensional. And those were my guys that helped me do it. And this is me at the ocean when I first began to pick up plastic waste from the ocean, which I know you know how much is out there and you've heard about the turtles, but I mean, it's like once you start looking, I know what white shapes are plastic and what are not. This is one day I was one day in January, and I think that was the reason that's also an important picture is that's the year I decided I was going to try to live without single-use plastic. And that innocently happened because I was doing a mandala at UNC, and I noticed that all the kids had water bottles. And of course, I was using and reusing my plastic bottle. And then I thought, wait a minute. So anyway, but then I thought, my sociologist in me said, if I can do this, it wasn't so long ago when we didn't have plastic, I can do this. And so I did it for a year. I got a lot of help from my friends with suggestions. Like one time I wanted to go camping, and I said, all right, I give up. I'm going to buy plastic in I'm going to buy ice in a plastic bag. And so a friend of mine says, so you don't know any friends that either work in a bar, go to a bar enough, something like that. You can get yourself somebody. If somebody knows somebody that has an ice machine. I mean, so there were always those answers. And so what that did for me was instead of just worrying and saying too much this and that, it made me feel, I don't want to say powerful, but understanding that you don't have to do this and sort of training myself to do much less of it. And that felt really good. And, my yoga group still, they tell me they still do it, whatever. But I mean, one of my best stories is forgetting my bags and trying to go back to the car to get them or to hold them in my hand. And this young man said, that's right, ma'am. Whenever I forget my bag, I go back to wherever it was and get it, even if it's home. So anyway, he was 18. The world is out there. So more of that plastic stuff from the ocean, a bunch of it washed up. And this is the sea hen made out of all that stuff from the ocean. Actually, in Kauai, it's the one places where in Hawaii where the chickens run wild. So this is a Hawaiian chicken, and I'm made out of all that sea rope. And that's another issue that I'm working on now, is all that type of plastic. And this is the install that's it's in High Point right now, and it's all monofilament and sea rope and stuff that people have picked up from me from wherever they've been in the oceans or around the oceans. And actually along the creeks too, because if it's in a creek, it's going to the ocean. And it's going to sadly break down into smaller and smaller pieces. So these are the bigger pieces. So, you know, my dad was a textile engineer. And I remember him coming home and showing me this piece of rope that was maybe as big as my finger and saying, this can pick up a car. And it was like magic. So he was in the middle of a process of when cotton was going out and losing it, and then you know, all this stuff happened. I mean, that we didn't think that nylon was not biodegradable, but there we are. Okay, is it time for me to quit? Time for me to quit? Okay, so other people, Zhu Bing, making this out of detritus from the buildings in China. This is, she is sweaters, wool sweaters. They felt in nature, and she was thinking about homeless shelters, wood, the plight of the elephants. They make carpets. Ellen Natsui, he uses his villages. This is all bottle caps and stuff. Bright Eke, making raincoats out of all the plastic bags that they drink water out of in Ghana, and that's just a famous thing. And in Australia, they were doing something that I was doing already, but using a fodder for it. Go France. Thank you for places like Reverse Garbage Truck, and that was in Australia, and this is, you know, scrap exchange, and I was going to tell you about that. Okay, so we're sort of done. I want to read your poem, and then hold on to your yarn. Or maybe, I tell you what, right now, everybody take their yarn, hold on to the end of it, and then pass the yarn ball to somebody else. Hold on to the end and pass it just to anybody. Anybody. And then, good. Okay, and then do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Okay, one more time. One more time. Okay. If you want to, I'm going to read your poem now. You can keep going. Can you be silent while you do this? I'll read you a poem. Or let's just 1 second. Okay, this is by William Stafford. The Way It Is. There's a thread you follow, and you get stuck in your thread sometimes. Okay, all right, let's all, okay. Hold on for a second. We'll finish this in a second, maybe. Obviously, Bevelyn, the next time I do the poem first, but anyway. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread. But it is hard for others to see, except for today. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you can do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. So, thank you, everybody.